Hey guys, this is Aurea Phoenix. Today I'm going to show you a tutorial on how to use ink in different ways. For this experiment I'll use some copying paper stolen from my machine, brushes. I like to use watercolor brushes for ink painting because they have very soft hair and the tips are very nice and neat. I use brushes of different strengths, starting from 3-0, going to 12 or 10. I also have a comb brush and a fan brush. Of course, you also need a jar of water and some kitchen paper to clean up the mess. Let's start with the smallest brush. It's 3-0, this one. You can see it's very tiny and it's a detail brush. The upside of this brush is that it is very small and tiny, and you can use it to draw in details. You can also use it for writing and just do normal lines. But the downside is that since it is so small, it cannot take a lot of ink, and you have to dip into the ink much more often. Okay, let's come a bit closer here so you can see a bit more of it. Let's just do the same with the other brush sizes, so you can see the difference. With this one you can see that it's a bit thicker and the lines are a bit darker because it can soak a bit more ink. This is a medium-sized brush, an 8. You can see that filling larger areas is much easier with this brush, but drawing lines is a bit more difficult. And there are special effect brushes you can use in your painting, but you don't need to. Sometimes they make things a bit easier. For instance, this is my comb brush, and it can help you to create textures, like parallel lines. You can use it to very easily design hair or grass structures with it. This one is very similar. It's a fan brush. It's one of my favorites. Basically, you can do the same as with the comb brush, but since the hair is fanned out a bit, the lines are more dynamic. And I prefer to draw hair. As you can see, it looks a lot more dynamic than with a comb brush. I've just shown you what you can do with different brush sizes and forms, but with pure ink. Now, here comes the fun part. Let's look into what you can do with a little more water. There are different ways to dilute the ink. First of all, of course, you can dilute the ink in your mixing tray. Secondly, what you can do is first dip in water and then, without drying up the brush, dip into the ink and then apply it to paper. It will look like this. You can also use a lot of water and a wet brush to paint over the line. If the ink is still wet, you can detach it from the paper. Note how the line just became a bit more transparent while the paper got a bit smudgy. If you apply a lot of water and take off the wetness with kitchen paper. This means you can undo part of your ink work. Now let's see what happens if you soak the paper in water first. If you use proper watercolor paper, the paper can soak a lot more water and will not get wrinkled like this. You can see that the ink flows a lot more. That's because it cannot connect directly to the paper, because of all the water. Same here. Now you can also smudge and take off some of the spare ink. And you can see that you have very soft and smooth textures in contrast to the line above. Textures like these you can use easily for backgrounds. Note that I'm using kitchen paper to control the outcome, because if you work on very wet surfaces with a lot of ink, dilute it in water, you never know what happens. But if you stop the process in between, if you stop the ink from spreading and flowing, you can control the outcome very well. For blotches, you can also get a pipette, like this one, and just apply the ink direct. Let's try using a lot of ink on a dry surface now. Yes, that's a blotch. Oh, another one. Interesting. Oh my god! Did you just see that? That was so unexpected. The ink flowed down. Actually, that's one of my favorite techniques. You can use it with diluted ink or with pure ink. Make sure to have a lot of kitchen paper around when you try this. And also make sure not to soil your clothes. Try to be creative with your tools and the ways of applications. You can also use Q-tips or a sponge or just pure kitchen paper to apply the ink. Now let's try some stamping. Some smudging. Pure kitchen paper. And some more stamping and smudging. I like to make treetop structures with this. Textures like these you can easily use for your backgrounds because they are not so clear cut and they look a bit smooth. You see that the borders are dissolving a bit more. I've actually made a tutorial on how to use stamping with a kitchen paper on treetop structures. I'll just put up the link in the card above, so you may check out how you can use this to paint forest. Now I'm done and I have so much ink left. Luckily I have this pipette and I can use it to suck up the ink and just return it into the bottle. Make sure only to return your undiluted ink though. In my art you can see that I'm using a lot of these techniques, quite freestyle sometimes. In some cases it looks like I was stroking the paper with a brush and I was doing nothing. But in these, of course, I'm soaking the paper with water first and prepare it for the ink application. Because usually I start with the lightest areas and work up to the darkest areas. Applying the water in the contours of a face or a piece of cloth or whatever also helps me to control the ink flow. If you enjoy the content I make, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and also comment. It means a lot. Also let me know what you struggle with the most when you do art.